Hi everyone, welcome to Storytime. Thank you to all those local libraries who have been sharing these story times each week. It's a lot of fun to connect with all the young kids who aren't able to go to the library in person but are still able to enjoy story time. This week, I've got a special guest with me to read us this week's book. I'm very pleased to have with me someone who's known as Canada's most trusted news anchor, Lloyd Robertson. Lloyd, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you keeping?
I'm very well, John. Like everybody else, I'm staying at home, running out for errands occasionally, trying to get out for walks, exercising, doing all those things that you do in the kind of situation we're in right now.
Oh, that's great. And thanks for taking time to join us for story time. I understand you've chosen a book to read for us. What book have you chosen?
Yes, I have, John. This one is called I Am Peace. Now, I chose this one specifically for this time because this is about a little person. You can see her here, and she is looking for peace within herself so that she can deal with some of the things she sees around her, because she knows that, yes, okay, mom and dad are home all the time, but there's something different about this time. What is it? What can she do to settle herself down, to get herself in a better frame of mind, in a better mood? So I'm going to call this person Susie, because it's the name of one of my daughters, and this one looks like a Susie to me, but you can call this person whatever you wish. You'll notice that she has the peace sign on her little sweater there, and she has the doves of peace on her two outstretched hands, and so she is looking for peace. And basically that's what this book is about, John. So I'll just put on my glasses so that I can see the printing in the book a little better. And we'll flip to page 1, where Susie starts to talk to us. And I think you can see that clearly enough, can you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Move over a little bit, and we'll start the book. Susie's sitting there. She's looking kind of lost. But she says, there are times when I worry about what might happen next and what might happen before, what might have happened, who knows. The thoughts in my head are rushing water, and I feel like I'm in a boat with no anchor, and it's carrying me away. And there you see her being carried away up in the air, falling, rising, and finally splashing down into the water. So Susie's really worried about things. She says, I give myself a moment. Now, this is a good idea. Give yourself a moment. Take a breath. She says, I take a breath. And then I tell myself, it's all right. I'm okay. You know the feeling. You can get into that mood. Just stand up and say, I'm okay. And so she stands up and she says, I feel the ground beneath my feet. I can steady myself. And I start to notice the here and the now and the two birds on each side of her outstretched arms. And then the bird lands on her head too. And she says, my thoughts begin to settle. My mind begins to clear. And then she says, I am peace. I can watch my worries gently pop and disappear. I let things go. And then you see her stretching right out. She says, I can say what I feel inside myself out loud. I know myself. She says, I can share kindness with others. And there you see her feeding the birds. She says, I can make a difference. And, oh, look at here. We got those purple pants. See, did you know she was wearing purple pants? Oh, look at that.
That's wonderful.
And so she's still spreading her goodwill around here. She's throwing seeds out to plant a tree. Well, let's have a look at what that looks like. The purple pants again, and the tree. And it starts to grow. It's growing very quickly, isn't it? Because trees usually take a long time. We know that, don't we? But there, it's really sprouting now, and it gets to the point where she can actually climb right up and hug it. She says, I can hug a tree and thank it for its beauty and all of its strength. And then she says, I can connect to nature. There she is. So she shimmies up the tree, slides around, and then slides down to the bottom of it and looks up at the sky. And she says, I can watch the clouds make shapes against the sky. I no wonder. Now, I'm sure many of us have done that from time to time. We've just given ourselves the opportunity to sit at the base of a tree and look up at the sky. At night, we count the stars. In the daytime, we take in the shapes of the lovely clouds. She says, I can taste and smell and touch and hear and see what is all around me. I can use my senses. I can feel my breath, fill my whole body. I tune in to me. And there, see how peaceful she looks there? Down at the base of the tree, taking everything in, and finally, I think, closing her eyes just to totally relax. She's taken the deep breath. She's had all these things rushing through her mind, and now she's feeling calm because she's out with nature. She's looking up at the sky. Wow, the water is still. I find my anchor, and everything is all right. So the water is quiet now. She's found her anchor again. Everything is all right. I don't need to worry about before or after. I'm in this moment, right in this moment. And she says, I am peace. And I can share my peace with others. So she's now feeding that dove who came. And she says, and hope that it is carried away. The peace that I have found, I can spread out to the world, carried away to those who need it. If you've ever seen an opening ceremony of an Olympics, you'll know that's how this works. That they release the doves out through the roofs of the stadiums, and out into the world they go, sharing the idea of peace. And she says, I dream we, all of us, are at peace. So that's the book, and I hope that leaves us with something in this time, because no matter what happens, we get through it. There was an old expression that I grew up in Stratford, of course, and my father used to use this phrase, this too will pass, and it always does. So we know that this time will certainly pass. It may take another month or so, or maybe another 6 months, but we'll get through it. And we've got to get through it together, and we've got to get through it as peacefully as we can. So that's the little message that this book gives, and I think it's a pretty good one for the times.
Absolutely, thank you, Lloyd. I think you picked out the perfect book to really tie up all the sentiments we're having right now. Now, before I let you go, you mentioned you are a born and raised Stratford lad. You grew up with your lovely wife Nancy as well in Stratford. Do you have any special message right now for the people of the community right now as we go through this challenge with COVID-19?
Well, I keep track of that community all the time, and so does Nancy. I mean, we're back there often. Yes, I was born there. I grew up there. And I remember my father telling me about an earlier epidemic that was very severe in Stratford and throughout the world. It was called the Spanish flu epidemic of 1918, 1919. And he remembers being the only person on his street in Stratford that managed to be free of that bad flu. He somehow became immune to it. And he would be walking down the street and people would be yelling to him, George, pick me up a quart of milk when you're going to the store, that kind of thing. But they came through that. They came through that in Stratford and in Perth County, and they came through, of course, the Great Depression, which followed. Then they had the Second World War. And then after the war, Stratford fell upon bad times when the C&R locomotive power shops closed, and a lot of people were thrown out of work. But look what happened. Tom Patterson came up with the idea for the Stratford Festival, and that brought things alive again. So Stratford is especially resilient community. One of the most resilient communities in the entire country, I think, Sean. So I have no doubt at all that the Stratford folks will come through this well and thrive again.
That's wonderful, and that's a great message to leave on. Again, thank you, Lloyd Robertson. Thank you for joining me. It's a great pleasure to have you join us for Storytime. And to everyone who's watching at home, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you so much.